10 powerful Stoic techniques to control your emotions. We all have those days, don't we? The ones that feel like a relentless storm of chaos, anxiety, and frustration. Your boss floods your inbox, an unexpected bill drains your account, or a thoughtless comment from someone you love just ruins your evening. In those moments, it's so easy to feel like our emotions are in charge, and we're just along for the ride, tossed around by waves of anger and stress. We feel powerless. But what if that isn't true? What if you've had the power all along? The ancient Stoics thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, who lived 20 years ago, claimed to have the answer. They developed a set of powerful, practical techniques to master our inner world, no matter what chaos is happening in the outer world. Let's be honest, though. Can this ancient wisdom, forged in the Roman Empire, actually work in our modern, hyper-connected, pressure cooker lives? Can a philosophy from 2 millennia ago really help us deal with the daily anxiety and anger we all face? I decided to put it to the test. For 1 full week, I committed to applying 10 of these ancient Stoic techniques to my own chaotic life. In this video, I'm going to share which ones were surprisingly effective, which were almost impossible, and whether these old teachings can genuinely help us win the daily battle inside our own minds. Let the experiment begin. The dichotomy of control, ISA, reclaiming your power. The first technique, and really the foundation of all Stoicism, is what the philosopher Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. The idea is deceptively simple. Some things in life are up to us, and some things aren't. What's in our control? Our thoughts, our judgments, and our actions. What's outside of our control? Well, just about everything else. Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, and whether someone cuts you off in traffic. The Stoics argued that almost all our negative emotions, our anger, anxiety, and frustration, come from one basic mistake: trying to control what we can't. My first test came on Tuesday morning. I was on my way to a huge meeting, and of course, I hit a complete standstill on the highway, a sea of red taillights. My immediate reaction was that all too familiar surge of adrenaline. My heart started pounding, my knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. I could feel the anger and panic bubbling up. This can't be happening. I'm going to be so late. This is a total disaster. Then I remembered the technique. I took a deep breath and asked myself, what, right now, can I actually control? The traffic? Nope. The time? Nope. What the people waiting for me think? Definitely not. The only things I could control were my own actions and my own response. I couldn't control the cars out there, but I could control what I did inside my car. So, I picked up my phone and sent a calm text. So sorry, I'm stuck in some crazy traffic. I'll be about 15 minutes late, but I'm joining the call from my phone now to listen in. Then, I put on a podcast I'd been meaning to hear, and just like that, the anger vanished. The panic subsided. The situation outside my car hadn't changed at all, but my inner world had. I had stopped fighting a battle I was guaranteed to lose and focused only on what I could win. That simple shift felt incredibly liberating. Pause and reflect, winning the space between. Our emotions often feel like they happen to us, like a switch is flipped, a trigger happens, and boom, an explosion of anger or a wave of anxiety. The Stoics, though, believed there's a tiny space between that trigger and our reaction, and in that space, that's where our power is. They taught the importance of hitting a mental pause button before you react. Seneca advised that when you feel anger rising, you should just do nothing, don't speak, don't act. Simply pause and let that first flash of emotion, what they called a first movement, pass by without your permission. This pause is your chance to use reason and decide if the emotion is actually justified or helpful. I got to practice this on Wednesday when I got an email from a colleague that felt incredibly passive-aggressive, subtly blaming me for a team setback. My gut reaction was visceral. My face felt hot, and my fingers were already flying to the keyboard, ready to fire back a defensive, scathing reply. But I stopped. I remembered the pause. I literally pushed my chair back, stood up, and walked to the kitchen to get a glass of water. In that simple 60-second break, I was able to let my rational mind catch up. Was my colleague really trying to sabotage me? Unlikely. Were they probably just stressed and handling it badly? Much more likely. Would a fiery email help anything? Absolutely not. I went back to my desk and wrote a calm, simple response that tackled the issue professionally, without any of the emotional baggage. The conflict was completely avoided. By creating that little pocket of time, I stopped a momentary impulse from turning into a long-term regret. That space is where self-control is born. Reframe your judgments. 8. The story you tell yourself. This might be the most revolutionary idea in all of Stoicism. It's not events that hurt us, but our judgment about those events. It's not the rain that ruins your day. It's the judgment that a rainy day is a bad day. It's not being criticized that causes pain. It's the judgment that this criticism means I'm a failure. The Stoics knew that we're storytelling creatures, and if we can consciously change the story, if we can reframe our judgments, we can change our emotional reality. My big test for this came at the end of the week. A project I had poured months into was suddenly put on indefinite hold by management. My first unfiltered judgment was a complete catastrophe. All that work was for nothing. I've wasted so much time. This is an absolute failure. I could feel a heavy sense of despair settling over me. Then I forced myself to reframe it. What if this wasn't a disaster? What if it was an opportunity? I started searching for a new story. The project is on hold, which means I now have the time and energy to work on that other, more innovative idea I had. Or, this is good information that the company's priorities are shifting, and now I can align my work with where things are actually going. By changing the judgment from disaster to opportunity, the feeling of despair lifted. It was replaced by a sense of clarity and even a little excitement. Nothing about the external event had changed. The project was still on hold. But by reframing how I saw it, I had turned a source of pain into a source of potential. Describe events objectively, stripping away the drama. This technique is a practical way to apply reframing. Marcus Aurelius, in his private journals, would systematically break things down into their objective, factual parts, stripping away all the emotional language. Instead of, that luxury wine is a sublime experience, he'd think, this is fermented grape juice. Instead of, the ship was tragically lost at sea, he would just state, the ship has been lost. The point isn't to become a robot. It's to peel away the layers of drama that we add to reality. This practice gives you distance and clarity, so you don't get swept away by your own hype or horror. I tried this with a common modern problem: social media. I was scrolling through Instagram and saw photos of a friend on a lavish vacation in a place I've always wanted to visit. My emotional brain immediately kicked in with its commentary. Wow, their life is so much more exciting than mine. I'm stuck here working while they're living it up. I feel so boring and unsuccessful. I stopped myself. I applied the technique. What was objectively happening here? A person I know has posted a series of filtered digital images of themselves in a specific geographical location. That's it. That's the fact. There was zero objective evidence that they were happier, that their life was better, or that mine was worse. It was just pixels on a screen. By describing it in that neutral, almost boring way, the envy and self-pity evaporated instantly. The post lost all its power over me. I saw how my own mind had built this whole dramatic story around a simple, objective event. This technique is a powerful antidote to the comparison culture we all live in. Practice voluntary discomfort, AT, training for hardship. The Stoics believed we suffer more in our imagination than we do in reality. We're terrified of poverty, hunger, and discomfort, and that fear can control our lives. Their solution was pretty radical. Intentionally practice the things you're afraid of. Seneca suggested setting aside a few days each month to eat simple food, wear your plainest clothes, and live as if you'd lost everything. The goal isn't to punish yourself. It's to build resilience and prove to yourself that you can handle tough times. Think of it like a vaccine against fear. I decided to start small. My chosen discomfort was the cold shower. For the entire week, every single morning, I turned that handle all the way to cold. The first day was just pure shock and misery. My mind was screaming at me, "This is awful. Why are you doing this? Turn it back to warm, now." But I stuck with it. And a funny thing happened. By day 3, it was still uncomfortable, but it wasn't shocking anymore. It was manageable. I learned to control my breathing and brace myself for the cold. But more importantly, I started my day by proving to myself that I could do something difficult and uncomfortable by choice. That had a ripple effect. A snarky comment from a co-worker or a long line at the grocery store suddenly seemed trivial in comparison. I had already faced down a bigger dragon before 8A. Name your emotions, not taming the beast by labeling it. This ancient Stoic practice is actually backed by modern neuroscience. Studies show that the simple act of putting a name to an emotion can dial down its intensity. When you label a feeling, this is anxiety, this is frustration, you engage the thinking part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, which helps calm down the emotional alarm center, the amygdala. You're basically hitting the brakes on an impulsive reaction. I found this incredibly useful on a day when I was just feeling off. You know, that vague, unsettling feeling of unease that just poisons your whole afternoon. I couldn't focus. I was irritable. So I stopped what I was doing, sat down, and did a mental check-in. I asked myself, what, specifically, am I feeling? I let the words form in my mind. I am feeling anxious about the presentation I have to give tomorrow, and I am feeling resentful that I have to do it all on my own. It was like flipping a light on in a dark room. The vague, menacing shadow became two distinct, manageable problems: anxiety and resentment. The moment I labeled them, their power over me shrank. The anxiety was a signal to prepare more for my presentation. The resentment was a signal that I needed to have a conversation with my team about our workload. By naming the emotions, I had turned them from mysterious puppet masters into simple pieces of data. Focus on virtue, your unchanging North Star. In a chaotic and uncertain world, the Stoics said, we need an internal compass that always points true. For them, that compass was virtue. Instead of letting your life be guided by chasing pleasure or avoiding pain, it should be guided by 4 core virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When you feel a destructive emotion coming on, the technique is to ask, what would the virtuous response be? This shifts your focus away from how you feel and toward how you should act. It turns that emotional energy into fuel for doing the right thing. My test came in a crowded supermarket. I was in a long line, and I watched someone walk right up and cut in near the front. My immediate emotional impulse was pure anger, a raw sense of injustice. I wanted to yell, to call them out, to make a scene. But I paused and asked myself, what's the virtuous path here? Justice might say I should call them out, but wisdom would ask, and then what? Will it create a loud, ugly scene? Is it really worth sacrificing my own peace for this? And temperance, the virtue of self-restraint, would suggest that the most powerful move might be to do nothing at all, to consciously choose not to let this person's rudeness destroy my own tranquility. I chose temperance. I took a breath and let it go. It felt weird at first, like I was letting them get away with it. But then a deeper feeling took over, a sense of profound control. I hadn't controlled the other person, but I had controlled myself. I had chosen peace over anger, and in that moment, that felt like a much bigger win. Use cognitive restructuring. Challenge your irrational beliefs. This technique is basically the ancient version of modern cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. The Stoics were the original cognitive therapists. They knew that our emotional turmoil is often caused by irrational beliefs we have about the world. Beliefs like, I have to be perfect at everything I do, or everybody has to like me. The technique is to spot the irrational belief that's fueling your negative emotion, argue with it, and replace it with something more rational and helpful. I caught myself in one of these irrational loops while working on a report. I found a small mistake I'd made, and the emotion was a totally disproportionate wave of shame and fear. My thoughts started spiraling. If my boss sees this, she'll think I'm incompetent. I can't believe I'm so stupid. I stopped and identified the irrational belief underneath it all. Making a mistake means I am incompetent and a failure. Then I challenged it. Is that really true? Have I seen other smart, competent people make small mistakes? Of course. Is one tiny error the true measure of my overall ability? Absolutely not. I replaced the irrational belief with a rational one. Competent people make mistakes sometimes. It's a normal part of the process. I'll correct it, learn from it, and move on. Just like that, the shame vanished. It was replaced by a simple, productive desire to just fix the error. It's like mental hygiene sweeping away the cognitive dust before it builds up. Premeditatio malorum, the power of negative visualization. This one might sound a little strange. Why would you want to think about bad things happening? The Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, or premeditating on future challenges, isn't about being a pessimist. It's a strategic rehearsal for life's difficulties. By calmly and rationally imagining worst-case scenarios, your car breaking down, losing your job, getting sick, you do two things. First, you strip these events of their shock value. If they ever do happen, you're mentally prepared. Second, you often realize that even the worst case is something you could probably handle. It lessens your fear of the future and makes you more grateful for what you have right now. Before a big family gathering I was hosting, I took 10 minutes to try this. I visualized the things I was anxious about. What if I burn the main course? What if two of my relatives get into a political argument? What if nobody seems to be having a good time? For each scenario, I planned my response. If the food burns, we'll order pizza and have a good laugh about it. If an argument starts, I'll calmly step in and change the subject. If people seem bored, I'll suggest a game or put on some different music. When the day finally came, a few minor things did go wrong, just as they always do. But because I had already pictured them, they didn't trigger any panic. I handled them with a calm that even surprised me. I had already met those challenges in my mind. so they lost their power to ruin my peace. Amor fati, learning to love your fate. This is the final, and maybe the most difficult, Stoic technique. Amor fati translates to a love of one's fate. It goes way beyond just accepting what happens. It means embracing it, loving it, and seeing it as necessary, whether it seems good or bad in the moment. It's the belief that everything that happens, every obstacle, every setback, is a crucial part of our journey. It asks you not just to put up with your life, but to love it, all of it. This is the ultimate act of letting go of what you can't control. My biggest challenge, and my final test, came as a rejection. I was turned down for a promotion I'd been working toward for over a year. The news was a gut punch. All the other techniques helped me manage the initial shock and disappointment, but Amor fati asked for something more. It asked me to look at this event not as a failure, but as a necessary redirection. Instead of thinking, this shouldn't have happened, I had to try thinking, this is exactly what was supposed to happen. It was incredibly hard, but I tried. I asked myself, what does this make possible? The answer was surprising. It made it possible for me to really re-evaluate if I was even on the right career path. It opened a door to explore other jobs, other companies, maybe even other industries. This rejection, which felt like an ending, was reframed as the catalyst I needed for a new beginning. I can't say I actually loved the feeling of being rejected in that moment, but I could start to accept it as a vital part of my story. This is the peak of the Stoic mountain, a lifelong practice of finding meaning and even beauty in whatever life throws at you. So, after a week of living like a modern Stoic, what's the verdict? Look, this ancient philosophy isn't a magic pill. It takes real, conscious effort every single day, but it works. These 10 techniques are powerful tools. They are a practical playbook for building an unbreakable mind. If this journey into Stoicism resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give this video a like and subscribe for more content on practical philosophy for modern life. And I have a question for you. Which of these 10 techniques do you feel you need the most in your life right now? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's build a community that's dedicated to mastering our inner worlds together. Conclusion. The world outside of us will always be chaotic and unpredictable, at least to some degree. People will be difficult, plans will fall through, and challenges will come. That's just the nature of life. But the great, liberating promise of Stoicism is that the world inside of us doesn't have to be. Your mind is your fortress. These techniques are the tools and the blueprints to build its walls strong and high. The journey to inner peace isn't a destination you just arrive at one day. It's a daily practice. It's the conscious choice, when faced with chaos, to pause, to reflect, and to focus only on what you can control, your own character and your own will. The power was never out there. It's been in you all along.